Let's go.
Have a listen to this, Stu. It's just one of those cars, you're going to run out of road before you run out of torque and power, aren't you? It just keeps accelerating. Beautiful day here in Sydney. Perfect day to drive this wonderful car, SL55 AMG. I was lucky enough to have the predecessor to this car late last century as a result of a sponsor agreement to drive for some time, for 6 or 8 months, and I really developed a great affinity for the SL. I love them. They're probably my preferred Benz. This is another evolution again. This is the compressor, 500 horsepower, a lot faster, handles a lot better. 20-year-old car. I don't think it's dated at all. It's a wonderful looking machine. Stu and I are really looking forward to driving here today. Well, we're back with inCARnation Australia, Stu. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been like a month since we did the little Beamer. Hello everyone. Well, you've turned on the weather. Thank you, mate.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't get much better. Sorry, SL55 AMG.
That's it. Today our plan is one thing. We just want that camera on the door to stay on. There's only one little suction mount there, and fingers crossed. The R230 model came out in 2001. They spent 3 or 4 years designing this car. So they had 100 original drawings, whittled it down to 12 designs from 12 different designers, clay models, and then came up with 4 they liked, built 4 full-size replicas, and then chose the one they wanted. And that whole process took about 3 years. So.
Well, I think they got it right, didn't they? It's a great looking car.
Well, SLs last a long time. The previous one lasted 10 years, and this one also 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, they do that, don't they? And they build that heritage, and it's such a strong heritage going back decades with SL, and it's the one, nameplate within the Mercedes range that just has that lineage, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, SL, as you know, stands for Sports Light. This is not light, but is it sports?
This is a heavy car.
1900 kilos and a bit. How do you build a 2-door sports car that's 1900 kilos, honestly?
Well, you give it 500 horsepower for a start.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, and 700 Newton meters.
Yeah.
This motor, it's the 5.5. I mean, this particular SL car had 3 litre, 3.5, 3.8, 6 cylinders, then the 5 litre, the 5.4, 5.5, and they had twin turbocharged. They had a V12 6 litre. Eventually, they went to the 6.2.
So many varieties, right?
Plenty of models, but this is the 5.5 litre supercharged. Now, when this came out, this was the only car in the range that had the supercharged on it. But this one had 55% more power.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot.
And the 5.5 litre Mercedes engine is such a great engine. The E55 E-Class Benz had one of those for a while, years ago. Back in the day when not every Mercedes had an AMG badge hanging off the back of it, right?
I think this was the first one to be made by AMG in-house at Mercedes. So they really wanted to throw everything at this car, every bit of tech that they have. Some of them had voice command operation in its rudimentary form. That's incredibly advanced.
It would have been quite amusing to try out a 20-year-old voice command system, wouldn't it?
Yeah, in German.
Yeah.
It's got ABC, active body control, so it's hydro-pneumatic dampers on each corner and huge computers and stuff. It's not the kind of thing you want to go wrong at this stage of its life, 20 years later, because it's very, very expensive to fix. So thankfully this is not our car, but it's a Mercedes, so it won't go wrong. Correct?
Well, they are very well built, there's no doubt about that. I mean, they're probably over-engineered in some aspects, but they're as strong as you get and super reliable. It's just at the top of Mercedes range as far as I'm concerned. It's probably the only convertible I'd ever own, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we love the Porsche Boxster, as you know. If you haven't seen our video, it's been a very popular video.
Our most popular video.
I have a Boxster, I have a Cayman. I have a Cayman every day. But, with this, you've got to have the SL, and it's got to be the convertible.
I know you're not a convertible person. For a while, I hankered after an SLK500, and I nearly bought one when they were quite cheap. I think it was $30,000 Australian.
Right.
And that's the same 5.5 litre motor, but it's not supercharged. So, but in the little car, the SLK, that's probably more than enough.
Yeah.
But the styling was a little bit awkward. So in the end, I bought a 911.
Yeah.
The SLK doesn't have the presence of this thing. This thing's got such street presence. It just says, you're a CEO. At the time it came out, it was the fastest automatic car in the world, but only briefly, because the McLaren SLR came out the same year, or 2003, same year as this car. And it was of course faster, but in a way this is like a baby McLaren SLR. A lot of the styling features are the same.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we're just checking. Yes, it's good to go. So 0 to 100. That time. The traction control was holding it back on the leaf litter right at the start. That hesitation, that wasn't you, was it? No, that was the car.
I just had it floored, and we had a little bit of traction control kick in that time.
Yeah, well that has a huge bearing on time. That time it got 4.8.
It felt like about that. Well, what's it supposed to be? It's supposed to be about that.
4.9. And Mercedes does always understate their claims.
Well, let's go with that one. It feels like it's never going to flatten out on power.
It took a while to build up though. I guess that's the thing with a supercharged motor, not a turbocharged. It's still top end power.
Yeah.
Even though the torque's at 2,650, it feels like it's taking a while to get up there, isn't it? But then it just keeps building.
It just keeps going, doesn't it?
And therein lies the problem. We're barely into second gear and already at the national speed limit. In terms of acceleration, it accelerates with so little fuss it doesn't feel that fast at low speeds. Because it's so tall geared with only a 5-speed box, I mean it's got 700 Newton meters, 516 foot-pounds of torque, as much as a V8 supercar. So it should feel fast, and the numbers don't lie. For 2 tonnes, 4.8 is quick. And yet it doesn't feel that fast. I guess my problem is I spent all of last weekend in a race car, so my frame of reference has moved a little bit.
What Mercedes would you own? This?
Yeah.
We do like sports cars, but when we think of two-door sports cars, we think of things like the Boxster or much lighter cars.
I think the SL's in a bit of a niche of its own. One of the things we need to try and define today, as you say, SL Sport Light, is it a sports car or is it just a cruiser? Not quite sure yet, but it feels pretty sporty to me. Brakes feel great, Stu. It's really sensitive. I mean, as soon as you touch that brake, it's just standing on its nose. Probably a little over boosted, but appropriate for a car, I think, of this weight.
So you're going manual?
Yeah, we've got a manual option here, and Mercedes in their wisdom have decided to go from left to right, which is okay. The transmission works okay. We'll go down to second here. How good does that sound? A little bit of a left to right downshift there.
Sound. It's kind of flatulent, isn't it? It is a water buffalo farting underwater in a nice way. It's a very muscular sound. And you've got the active body control on there in sports mode. 2,000 revs up there and you're really honking.
It does everything very well. It's very sure-footed. There's no bad habits whatsoever.
It almost anticipates leading into a corner.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes, okay, we're going to go right. As soon as you put a little bit of lock on it, leans in. Here, for example, here's an off camber, and it kind of leans into it.
That is a very cool car to drive, I have to say. I really like this car. Go back down a gear there, back down to third. Go back down to second there. Well, I'll tell you what, it does handle pretty well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's nice there, isn't it?
Yeah. Porsche Boxer with the roof up.
What's going on?
Go figure.
Day like today. But through there, like constant radius, constant throttle. Car's superb, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
I mean, just a great sound. It's a sports car, Stu.
You get the feeling that motor's not being stressed at all, do you?
It's just doing it so easily, isn't it?
An English car, this one?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Only has 49,000 kilometres on it. It's been very well looked after.
Stability control, traction control. It's even got height adjustable. You can adjust the road height.
Yeah, which is actually quite handy. It does sit pretty low, a lot of overhang at the front. So that's a useful feature on this car.
I'm told the steering's a little bit lifeless. Is that a fair comment?
Look, it's not got a bad weight on it. Yeah, it's okay for what the car is. It's not as direct as you would expect. You know, in my view, Mercedes are not known for having a great weight on the steering, are they?
No.
In my view, most of them.
Well, they're more known for that recirculating ball feel and a little bit of layoff in the centre that does nothing.
It does have a little bit of play. But how many gears? It's only 5-speed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty good.
In 2006, they did an upgrade, which is just a minor visual update, but they went to paddles rather than the buttons, and a 7-speed gearbox. But this thing's so big and robust, and it's got such a wide rev range. You don't need actually the 7. It's kind of.
I don't think so. And you know, we're using the button system behind the steering wheel, which is fairly agricultural these days. The transmission for a 20-year-old transmission, you know, usually when we drive cars of this era, they do a lot of things really well, but we often find the transmissions let them down. But I tell you what, this actually shifts pretty quickly, doesn't it? But I tell you what, the brakes have a really good feel, Stu. And they're going downhill here and just pushing on a little bit. It really pulls the car up well, and it's pulling up a hell of a lot of weight. I mean, I'm sure if you're on the track with this, you'd soon get a bit of brake fade.
Oh, see how it stops.
It actually pulls up well there, doesn't it?
This is how you enjoy one of these cars. You don't have to be banging along the autobahn proving your 200 mile an hour car.
It's not what it's about, is it?
Actually, most of them are speed limited to 155 mile an hour anyway. But unrestricted, they'll do 330 k's an hour according to Mercedes AMG. So stupid fast.
I'm sure they would.
But let's say you were looking for a really high-powered two-door V8 or V10 or V12 Roadster convertible of the era, the year 2000. What would you buy? You tell me what comes to your mind.
This is it. I mean, there are other options there.
Well, I'll go through them. You could have an Aston. This is pre the new Vantage, so you can have an old DB7 or a DB9.
Yeah, no.
They're really old school. You could have a BMW 645 or 650 later on from around the early 2000s, and they're a nice car with a bit of an awkward bum on them.
That's right. Yeah, they weren't the best looking of things, were they?
I don't think they're as elegant as the 7 Series that you like.
No, it wasn't. No.
But not really comparable. It doesn't really say on Boss Hog. You could have a Maserati, but again, they're like 270 kilowatts, 4 litre, but a lovely Ferrari-based engine. So that'd be a nice car, but it doesn't have the Teutonic dominance that this thing has on it.
That's right.
Yeah, this has got authority. That's the word that comes to mind. What do you reckon? Authority. You could have a Jaguar XKR. They're supercharged as well.
Yeah, well, that's true.
4 litre V8. That'd be a nice car, but reliability-wise,
I think you'd have to go for the Mercedes.
the car that the Japanese pitched against this could be the C430 Lexus, which is a kind of, it's a hardtop convertible.
Yeah.
It's got a 4 litre V8. It's got a decent amount of power, but nothing like this. And it's kind of globby styling. So that's a bureaucrat's car.
It's not one of those cars you aspire after, is it?
Now in Australia there are plenty of those on the market, and there are a lot of these on the market too, but not the AMG ones. There's plenty of CLK500s, which is a similar car. I mean, really the only competitor car to this is another Mercedes. It's the CLK500 with the same motor without the supercharger, and a lot less power. Nowadays, this car currently would cost around $60,000 to $90,000 Australian.
Yeah.
New, 400 grand.
Yeah, they were a lot of money, weren't they? You had to have serious cash to own one of these when they were new. But really, they've aged really well, haven't they? You know, so many 20-year-old cars haven't.
I tell you what, the ride's really, considering how chopped up this road is, it's good. An elegant sufficiency of horsepower.
It is, yeah. Do you really need any more than that in this style of car? Probably not.
In reality, you never need more than about 100 horsepower to do anything to get around.
And people like horsepower, otherwise we wouldn't have a YouTube channel, would we?
Yeah.
All we wanted was 100 horsepower. Well, who cares?
Well, 500 is the right number. Anything more than is pure indulgence. You don't need 600.
Right. Yeah,
and we've done
I'd
quite a
agree.
few 600 horsepower cars. So if you owned this car, would you drive it a lot, do you think? Would you take...
Probably would drive it. I mean, this is probably a daily driving car, isn't it?
If you do buy a car like this and you drive it a lot, you're going to expect to have to pay for maintenance items. And unfortunately, it's the kind of car where if you take it to get anything done, you're going to end up with a $3,000 bill. You know, engine mounts. If the suspension fails on this with these hydropneumatic displacers, that's mega bucks. There's a huge number of electric motors, hydraulic pumps, compressors. Imagine if the roof mechanism starts mucking up, they've got to reset the actuators and recalibrate it and stuff like that. You just know you're going to be up for $3,000.
Yeah, every time.
But if you are buying this car, you know, if you have to stretch to pay $60,000 to buy it and you're all in, you don't want to buy this car.
Probably.
You want to buy it because you really like it and you're prepared to go, okay, $4,000 or $5,000 a year. It might never go wrong. But it is 20 years old, and
of course, this car forms part of Peter's collection. And he's got quite a large collection of cars. It's not driven all that regularly. It sits perfectly within that collection, doesn't it?
So I was looking online, and I found 5 of these cars for sale, 5 AMG SL55s,
Right.
and they all look fairly well maintained. Mileages range from about 60,000 k's to 200,000 k's, and prices from $60,000.
Okay.
So for $60,000, you can get into one of these. Personally, for $60,000, I think I'd be buying a few other cars because this is just not my style of car. But I totally get it. It just exudes, as I said, Teutonic dominance.
Yes, it's big and heavy, we know that, but it does everything right. The chassis feels so strong, like there's no flex in the body. You expect with the Mercedes, it's just rock solid.
There's more things to play with in here than Michael Collins had in the Apollo capsule while he was waiting for the other 2 astronauts to come back from the moon.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to do all day except just play with the buttons. He'd be right at home here. You know, when after the moon landing, when the 3 astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins, went to meet the president at the White House, Armstrong and Aldrin went in to meet the president and Michael Collins just had to keep doing laps around the driveway.
Is that right, Stuart? Did you just make that one up again, did you?
I heard that, but I'm not sure if it's true. Yeah, the only thing with this car is it's very easy when you go to drive. It's natural instinct to pull the button to pull it back.
Yeah, well I did it. I kind of did it accidentally there before. I didn't even mean to do it. Like I have done it a couple of times as an intentional push the button, but I just did it completely accidentally there last time.
And that switches the engine off. No.
Things we don't like about this car, probably that's the only thing.
It's very old school. It kind of reeks of end of last century that way. I mean, it's very elegant. The styling is superb. It'll look better over time, unlike many modern cars.
Yeah, I think
this
it will.
interior as well.
The Mercedes interiors tend to date, don't they? But this is quite nicely sculptured, the way they've done. A bit of Alcantara here, like.
Okay, the old push button phone here is pretty quaint. Basic 20-year-old GPS system.
Does the Mercedes SL55 AMG make any sense? No, not really. Is it collectible? Absolutely. Will an MX-5 give you almost as much fun without putting so much stress on your driver's license? Probably. Will this car ever be cheaper than it is now? I'm guessing probably not. So the key question, is it a sports car? Mark says yes, I say no. It's a GT car, a continent-crushing GT car, a fabulous one. If you like it, should you buy one? Mark says yes, I say yes. I missed the chance to pick up an SLK, and in preparing this video I was surprised to see just how much they've gone up. But that wasn't really the right car. This one is, the SL. Any SL from the last 60 years. A while back Mark and I reviewed a later model modified C63 AMG sedan, and it was pretty brutal. Significantly faster off the line than this SL. But at the end of the day, it was still a taxi cab, pretty much like the one you'd get at Frankfurt Airport, and it certainly won't be as strong an investment long term. No, the SL is the right car. And if you're in Australia, there are 12 to choose from. Go for it, sunshine.
All right, well, that's the end of the review. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you so much to Peter, one of his amazing car collection. He's a lovely guy, isn't he?
Thanks, Peter. And I go back 25 years with Peter, if not more, and a great old friend. Always his ambition was to end his career driving a Formula One car, and he was able to do that and raced a Formula One car in historic racing for a number of years. So wonderful car collection he's built up over the years, and so passionate about his cars and his motorsport. So thank you, Peter. We're looking forward to working our way through your wonderful collection. Thanks, mate.
It's been a lot of fun. Okay. Oh hey, you made it right through to the end of the video. Congratulations. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please share it with your motoring friends. And above all, click the little subscribe thing down here so you can see the latest videos when we bring them out, hopefully each week. I look forward to seeing you soon.